Hello, Frugal Force. Once again, this is Captain Frugal reporting for duty for another episode of Flashback from the Stash, where I continue reading about older comic books, talking about them, and comparing them to newer comic books of today. But before I get in that, if you do enjoy these videos, please help me out by hitting like and subscribe, and hit that notifications bell to make sure you get notified. Now, I say that with a big gulp of air because even though I say they'll get notified, you don't always, because YouTube doesn't seem to like me. So if you want to really help out, you can go to the link below. We have a Patreon where you can help out for as little as $1 a month, and then you'll get notified through Patreon, and that seems to be about the best way to go in order to help me. So if you want to do that, by all means, please do. We also do giveaways once in a while, so keep a lookout for that. You might be a winner. And if so, I'll be contacting you, asking you your information so I can send you something cool. All right. With that said, let's move on. Today we're looking at Captain America number 405, late August. During this period of time, they were giving 2 issues a month because what they would do is Marvel would say, okay, it's summertime, kids are going to need reading, and so some of the books would get published twice a month. Instead, if you look there, the cover price at this time was $1.25 in this time period. Quite scary as compared to comic books today, isn't it? But that's okay. If we turn into the interior, by the way, I did enjoy that cover. It's a little weird though, and it says here, Stan Lee presents Captain America. I don't know if how proud he'd be right now. I mean, granted, he's still alive. Don't get me wrong. But if he really knew what was going on in Captain America, I tend to wonder what his thoughts would be. But going back to this time, it's at the laboratory of Dr. Nightshade, and she's actually experimenting on Captain America to see about what he'd be like transferring him to a wolf. Now, just so we get a little bit more information on this before we get too in-depth in it, this was Captain America Volume 1, number 405, and this was released late August of 1992. Yes, so we're going back to 92 on these. Pretty cool. So there she is doing the work on him. Now let's turn the page and see what happens. All right, before we dive in the action, just so you know, the story was written by Mark Gruenwald, and I am a fan of the Mark Gruenwald period of time. Now, granted, this might have been known as one of the lesser moments of the Mark Gruenwald time. The cool part of this was Captain America was more of a traveling adventurer during this time, fighting crime all over the place. We had a recent throwback to that with the Mark Waid Captain America, but unfortunately that fizzled out horrendously because it was more of a propaganda piece in the long run. It really had a lot of potential to go back to something like the Gruenwald era, which a lot of people really enjoyed, but unfortunately it didn't take us there. In this issue, the pencils was done by Rick Levins, the inks by Steve Alexandrov, letters by Joe Rawson, colors by Gina Going, edited by Ralph Macchio, and the leader of the pack, the editor-in-chief, if you will, Tom DeFalco. And I have to say, I really enjoyed Tom DeFalco's work in most cases, as well as his leadership when he was in charge of things at Marvel. I think he added a real professionalism to it. So in this issue, we've seen from the last page, he was getting experimented on, and he's been given this injection, and there he goes. He changes into Cap Wolf, and this issue is Dances with Werewolves. You have to love that. Now, this does actually open up into a double page, but I'm not going to show the second page because I do have to be a little careful to avoid copyright strikes and getting in trouble. So now we're going to turn to the next page and see what goes on. On the next page, after Cap turns into a wolf, you see it here, and this is pretty cool. I mean, look at that. Trapped, out, find way out, and it roars, so you can tell he's animalistic by reading his thought bubbles. And he throws Nightshade away with a simple slap, and he starts taking off. Captain America, stop! Voice bad, voice not listen bad. She's like, look at me, because she's trying to control them. And he says, not listen, take shiny thing. Not listen. So he's not listening. You can see he's very animalistic here. We then turn the page to get an advertisement. Just when you thought they couldn't get any bigger or better, we have an advertisement for Marvel cards. This is, I believe, the second series of them. I have both the first and second, which is sort of sad to admit. Does anybody else here collect these? If so, let me know in the comments if you collect these cards. So after the powerful, riveting advertisement making me want to buy cards, because yeah, I guess it worked at the time, Captain America's like, make way out, and he busts through the wall, and you see him running upstairs because he's trying to get free. As he busts through the building, we see the people, my goodness! And he's like, oh, bright sun, too bright, hurt eyes, because these werewolves generally only out at night in this particular storyline. He says, feel funny, sick inside. We turn to the next epic page of this tale. This shouldn't have happened, Dreadman. My serum's never given any of these subjects so much phenomenal strength before. And he says, it appears that your potion interjected the super soldier serum. You should have anticipated it. Like she could have anticipated something that's never been done before. Nobody's ever been able to duplicate the super soldier serum. So anyway, he orders the people to stop them, so they wolf out and they go after Captain America. Now, with the action being so fast-paced and so harsh and emotionally draining, they had to switch to the side story temporarily. And, that's common. And what we have here is the current love interest of Captain America, the on and off again kind of interesting thing there in this side story, as well as Jarvis as they are taking D-Man for a walk. If you weren't familiar, D-Man had a catastrophic incident, and he hasn't really been himself since. He doesn't talking and things. So they're taking him out for a walk to get some air. Jarvis has to leave, and she's like, hey, I can take care of him. And so Bernie, which is the love interest I was talking about, sort of love interest, is taking him out, and all of a sudden a purse snatcher grabs the purse and runs. Now, granted, the blonde white male, you normally wouldn't think anything about this. And in today's comic books, that's the only people usually that can commit crimes is white males. But back then, you could have anybody. So it was perfectly fine. So we turn to the next page, and Bernie's like, hey, he took my purse. He took my purse. Do something, Dennis. Throw that bench at him or blast it, stand there like a big dummy. I'll chase him, because she forgot for a moment that he's not really responsive or anything. He's having issues. And so then she does seem quite mean there, doesn't she? But, it's the heat of the moment. So then we switch back to the tale with Captain America and Dr. Druid, and we're going back right now to see what's going on with Dr. Druid. And he's at Starkborough. I hope Captain America doesn't think I deserted him. No, I'm certain he can handle himself, him not knowing that Captain America has just been turned into a werewolf. While I use this distraction he's been providing to search for the hidden power behind the town of werewolves. So he's investigating to figure out what's going on. Dr. Druid make sure he mentions to us in his head there, because we've got to inform the reader that he is the authority on Druid things, and this is very out of place, and it's just something not right, especially with the population of the town. So Dr. Druid, as we turn the pages, still looking around, and says, this private study beyond this chancel here is where it really gets interesting. The occult artifacts here rival my own collection. And he's looking at this small crystal in the jar. Yes, make sure you pay attention to the additional lettering occasionally, what I throw in here, talking about its powers. Its makings reminiscent of the moon's pockmarked face and the feel of an object of great power here. And then behind him, he notices something. To examine it further, I must remove it. And as he sees it flying behind him, a figure in the shadows. You do not belong here. And then Dr. Druid turns and sees he is not alone. As Dr. Druid turns, he finds that he's facing Dreadman. Says, I sense this man has considerable power. I better try to put him under mental control with all due haste. And Dreadman says, I am Dreadman, you are? And he says, Dr. Druid, I've heard of you. And Druid says, can't say the same. He says, dork, I don't even know who you are. And then we cut back to Captain America, or Capwolf at this moment, as he's running through saying, hard to think, not feel right, feel different. Well, yeah, you're turned into a wolf. I can sort of see why. What happened to me? What am I? What was I? What do they want from me? So you see, it's really messing up not just his body, but his brains as well, too. And he says, ask them what I am. Roar. Can't speak. Words in head, but lost in throat. So he can't even speak right because of what they've done to him. Turning the page again with the utmost excitement, we see Captain America thinking, come, follow me. We can fight him, force him to change us back to what we were. Understand me. So he's trying to communicate and just not getting along. And once again, make sure you pay attention to the thought and word bubbles. No, surrounding me. Roar. And so they go to attack, but he jumps, realizing, legs not know I could leap so high, because he doesn't really know he's Captain America fully and things like that, so he doesn't get it. And then all of a sudden, because, sales, at this time period, if you threw Wolverine in, you get better sales. So yes, remember, Wolverine is in this storyline. So Wolverine comes at him. Man with long claws, know him, forgot name. Because we got to have a cool Wolverine Capwolf fight. Let's turn the page and see what happens. So we turn the page, and Wolverine slashes at Cap, and he blocks it instinctively with his shield. Sharp claws, shiny things, stop them. Wants to kill me. And here we have a throwdown, and we see that no reason to fight. Maybe he understand me. Must find person who makes us animal. So he's like, roar, trying to talk to him. But Wolverine isn't having it, and he slashes at Cap Wolf. Thought he was understanding me. Evidently not. Turning the next exciting page, we see Capwolf striking back and just taking down Wolverine with a slash across the face. Yeah, who's the man now, Wolverine? Who's got the real claws? Well, let's be honest, Wolverine's claws are probably superior. But anyway, then Captain America picks him up like a quarterback's going to throw a football and just tosses Wolverine like he is nothing because, yes, he's not just Captain America, he's Cap Wolf. So once again, we turn the page because the action was just too much, and we get to an advertisement for a basket brawl. It's a slam dunk. Little Frugal and I actually have this on the NES and Genesis. I had it on the NES years ago. I will say the Genesis is the graphically superior edition, but both versions are actually very fun. I recommend checking it out if you like some old school fun games. When we turn our page, getting off of that high-intensity basketball advertisements for video games, we get back to Dr. Druid and Captain America in all their glory, and we see Captain America running through the woods after just slicing Wolverine in the face. We then cut to Dr. Druid, and he's having that stare-off with the bad guy as they're looking at each other, fighting for mental control. He says, I am the master of all druidic arts and disciplines, the master of the mind. And then we see him thinking, yet he is resisting me. I am exerting enough sheer mental force to give him a cerebral hemorrhage. How can he still be standing? Dare not lose concentration for even a moment. First one of us who blinks loses. And then we see him thinking more, could he be augmenting his might with some outside agent? We see that floating gem. Ta-da! It must be something like that, huh? And he thinks, I have to destroy it. As the story continues, we turn to the next page because the stare-off was just too demanding on us. Actually, this issue does a lot of bouncing around, but it does it really well. And we get back to Bernie here, huff, huff, because she was chasing after the purse snatcher, if you recall. And then she realizes it. Blast it. Oh, I couldn't catch up with that lousy thief. Better apologize to Dennis, D-Man, in other words. I shouldn't have yelled at him like I did. I was just so... And then she realizes, Dennis, where did he go? She lost Dennis. So big trouble. So what she do? She calls back and sees if he's there with Jarvis, and he's not. So she realizes she lost him and realizes, oh man, I'm in trouble. So she lost a guy that really is mentally challenged right now and has no clue where he went. And then we cut back to Captain America, and you see flying over on that sky cycle in Massachusetts. Moon Hunter to base. Found Flaggy. Looks like he got away from your golden boy Wolverino. Don't worry about it. By the way, maybe we ought to start calling him Wolverino from now on. Maybe I'll have to throw it in. Hey, Wolverino. Don't worry, you got a real man on the job. Now, expect I'm back in 10 minutes or less. Out. So he's saying, I can do what Wolverine didn't. Sure he can. Sure. As we turn the page to see if he can really back it up what he said, doing better than Wolverine, we see him. Yeah, and he throws a lasso, trying to lasso Capwolf. Hear the noise above, machine. Noise heard before. Not turn around, keep running. So he lassos him. Choking. Silver rope, silver face on machine. Not let him choke me. So in other words, the villain is trying to lasso him in like Marvel is trying to lasso in those leftist SJWs, but yet they still are not buying it. As we see Capwolf using his superior strength, yanking that guy right off his sky cycle, and the sky cycle crashing into a building as Capwolf drags him on the ground running. As the adventure gets just too much to bear, we turn the page and get, yes, another advertisement where we get told all kinds of cool stuff, which you don't see a whole lot of these like this in comic books today, like Hercules muscle. You can get the secret to having Hercules muscles. By the way, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, Arnold Schwarzenegger's first actual professional gig was doing one of these muscle ads, but that's a different story altogether. We see computer, sports, and games advertisements backed by popular demand. The world's most favorite character. We see Pokey and Gumby. We also get information on something that Marvel really needs to look at themselves on how to draw super characters, because clearly Marvel needs all the help they can get right now. And so those other things like learning karate and other fun stuff like trading card sets and learning how to have high school at home in your spare time. And of course, hey kids, Marvel's for sale for comic book issues. So as we indulge and laugh at the advertisements, let's turn the page and get back into the action of Captain America. So as I said, we turned the page and we're back to another scene with Dr. Druid in the famous stare-off in Dreadman's lair. And Dreadman's thinking, fall, blast your eyes, fall. And you see Dr. Druid, he's sweating it out, this tense stare-off, and he realizes he's going to have to levitate this to take care of and block the extra power that Dreadman's getting. But during when he was doing that, we hear, "Ha, got you! I found an area of your brain not focused on resisting me and concentrated my attack in that spot." So he knocks Dr. Druid down and out. Anthony Droom, alias Dr. Druid, the world's leading authority on Druidism. "You have been defeated, Anthony, overwhelmed by my superior might," and monologuing, because that, of course, is the evil people's things, right? They have to all monologue. And so let's turn the page and see what happens next. So as we turn the page, what do we get? Another advertisement. But this time I will say this is really cool, by the way. This is for the X-Men Konami video game in the arcades. And if you were not aware of it, that game was absolutely awesome. Granted, it had some funniness with wording and things like that. But this was pure cinematic awesomeness from X-Men. It's like playing a cartoon. Granted, you can't get this for any system because it was never technically ported to any system. So to get this, you either have to buy the arcade machine or maybe, get one of those MAME emulators and download it onto there. I'm not saying do anything illegal there, but I'm just saying it's out there and you can look it up yourself. But in that, you get to play the X-Men. It was a really cool game. I strongly suggest checking it out if you ever have the chance to put a quarter in a machine and give it a shot. So as we turn the page from the pulse-pounding excitement of an X-Men 90s video game, once again, really cool game, we're back to Captain America. And we see he's inside the town. Need to find Dr. Woman. Make her change me back. And so as we see, he finds her. He must have eluded Wolverine, and I can see Moonhunter. Can't stop him. The fact that he turned back must mean, "Oh, Captain, are you any chance by looking for me?" And we see Captain jump up there. And of course, look in the background. It's just funny. He's got Moonhunter there still being dragged. So, "Hurt me, and any hope you have of changing back to human is lost forever. Do you understand?" Really, she's expecting to have a rational conversation with a guy who's just been turned into a wolf. "Good. Now be a good boy. Put down your shield and come with me inside. Because you can trust me because I just changed you to a werewolf. If you behave, we may be able to work out something for our mutual satisfaction." Wonder what she means by that. "He's doing it, becoming docile at the sound of my voice, the scent of my pheromones. Good to see the old queen of the werewolves hasn't lost it." And then continued in 2 weeks. And if you continue reading that actual issue, it has the Diamondback story. But as I said, I'm not covering that here. So there we go. Now we have to wait again to see what happens in the next pulse-pounding werewolf issue of Captain America. But, let's turn the page and see what else is after the Diamondback part anyway. So here's something I wanted to show. The comments section of the books. This was, at this time, Captain America's was called American Graffiti, and Ralph Macchio was the editor. And I think this is, a very interesting thing here. And I'm going to point out, see this one, the arrows pointed out? This is the one I'm going to talk about. It says, "Dear Mr. Macchio, my 8-year-old son has in the past 6 months developed an affinity for Marvel Comics. And seeing them as relatively harmless fantasy fare, I ordered him a subscription. Among his selections were Captain America, and in your most recent issue, you have a special edition entitled Diamondback." That's the part we're not covering in this right now, the Diamondback mini part. "Using good parental sense, I do screen the books before I give them to my son." Now, I want to point out that good parental sense, that's what we need more of nowadays. You don't just let your kid look at anything, and you have to really use that on a lot of these Marvel comics today, because unless you want your kids indoctrinated with tons of propaganda and viewpoints, you really do have to screen this stuff. So anyway, I digress and getting back into it. So I do screen them before I give them to my son, inasmuch as they are often quite violent. However, this time I found not only violence, but a graphic depiction of a beleaguered female manacled to a subway station post set upon by a skull-headed humanoid, and then the most pedestrian group of wild youths. Do you realize this material is actually read, dwelt upon, and fantasized over by 8-year-olds? Yes, I do realize that my son has probably caught the headlines concerning the Kennedy Smith and Tyson trials, with all details presented in detail by the media. However, your media is both visually and imaginatively more alluring to the mind of a child than ordinary news. And that brings up a good point. That is very interesting of how, it is more adaptive and more looked into by the mind of a youth. It does seem that our comic industry pros forget that this could be a media that can be shared by both youth and adults. So it can be written in a way that adults can appreciate it, as well as kids, without a lot of garbage. But that's not really my whole point here. Here's where it continues to go. Our society is taking a vicious, misogynistic turn, with degradation and objectification of females becoming virtually the norm in all forms of advertising and MTV-style programming. Here's the point. Look at any man in comic books, too. Not all men are muscularly buffed, super tight-wearing clothing people. It's not just females. I love how you have one particular storyline here where the female has been captured and going through some torturous things. Granted, don't get me wrong there, but it does serve a point in the story. But that's what all they ever focus on. I love it on MTV. Last time I checked, MTV during that period of time wasn't just scantily clad women either. It was guys wearing a lot of weird things too. So once again, focusing only with tunnel vision. So anyway, I am sure lines like "You'll kiss back because I tell you to," which recited by panting, leering faces, and help reinforce positive concepts of male-female relationships in my son's still mudded, evolving mind. Why not confuse the telltale all in one strike? Perhaps by the time he is 10, he can stalk the subways with his sharpened screwdriver looking for the proverbial witch who just happens to be tied up waiting for him. So once again, this person just said they screened their books for their kids, and now they're having this issue. If you screened it, you wouldn't have had that problem in the first place, potentially, that you're worried about. Problem solved. You would wait till they're an adult or enough, or actually talk to your child about it and explaining its fiction and what's good and what's bad. Just a hunch. That's called parenting. The writers at Marvel cannot be so ignorant as to know that children are the predominant readers of your comics. Well, actually, no, they're not. Even back then, they weren't. They were, you have a lot of also older readers. The dynamics have proven that to be false. So anyway, and they cannot be unconscious as to be unaware of the explicit and unhealthy images and the concepts of the story, such as Diamondback packages. Please cancel my subscription and please wake up. Now, as I said, I don't agree with this person entirely. I think part of it's parenting. Now, granted, I do think Marvel at some points has went too far, and they currently are with propaganda and things. But here's the point I want to focus on is the response. Serious answer time. We have characters who are definitely role models and characters who definitely are not. Captain America is a role model. Crossbones and the gang of youth were not. Crossbones and crew are villains. In order to depict villainy, it is necessary to show evil deeds. It is sometimes problematic depicting evil and villainy in a way to make it seem 100% repellent and not alluring or attractive in any way. But that's what we try to do. The language and pictures in this particular story are meant to be unsettling. And that's what evil is, but not titillating. We applaud your screening of your child's reading material. Perhaps morality is something better taught by parents than by the media. Certainly, it is through dialogue between parent and child that certain images found in the media can be put in their appropriate moral context. We are sorry that you found some of our content too graphic and realistic for your 8-year-old. But by our house standards, we have not gone over the line. But you, as a customer, are entitled to disagree. Now notice that. You, as a customer, are entitled to disagree. When's the last time you heard Marvel say something like that? You don't. This is professionalism. Okay, so once again, next time we have a story which necessitates the depiction of evil, you can bet we will take greater pains, I can't speak, to make it clear to the 8-year-old in our audience that evil is not something we advocate to be imitated. Thanks for bringing this sensitive issue to our attention. That is how a professional responds, especially to a serious issue. Whereas if we take today's comic book writers and things like and editors, if they did that, they'd pretty much say, go F yourself. Notice, take once again, Ralph Macchio here and the assistant editor, Pat, and look at how it was responded to appropriately. Very well done. This is what Marvel Comics used to be, folks. This is all I think we want. Correct me if I'm wrong. So let me know in the comments, what did you think about that response? And do you think this is what you'd want back from Marvel again? You'd be okay with a response like this? I know I would. I think that was a very well done response. And I wish Marvel would go back to this kind of mentality again, which we would all call professionalism. Until next time, guys and gals, I hope you enjoyed this issue of Flashback from the Stash, and I look forward to talking to you about the next one. Till next time, keep it frugal.